Hi, my name is Collin Haygood. My audience members are my dad, my mom who's recording, and my nana. In last season's, the LA Dodgers, a professional baseball team, spent over $300 million on player payroll alone, larger than the GDP of some small countries. Today I would like to discuss the economics of professional sports. The economics of professional sports, such as player salaries, media revenue, ticket sales, merchandise, and economic strategies, directly shape how professional teams operate, compete, and succeed. It is important to understand this topic because these economics can impact the communities of major cities and America as a whole. When you understand this, it helps communities make the best financial decisions for themselves and their country. In researching this topic, I've just covered many sources such as visualcapitalist.com and sportsbusinessjournal.com. I chose this topic because I love professional sports and the economics behind them. I'll cover many topics in this, such as player salaries, media revenue, ticket sales, merchandise sales, and economic strategies and how they affect their respective teams. The first main point I will talk about is player salaries. According to an article by Jason Matthews titled Team Payroll, Pitcher and Hitter Payrolls and Team Performance by Economics and Business Letters on February 3rd, 2018, player payroll directly affects the quality of teams. For example, a team with a higher payroll spending more on players will have a better win percentage than teams who don't spend as much on their players. This is most prominent in MLB, as all Major League Baseball teams do not have a salary cap or floor and therefore are free to spend as much or as little as they would like. However, spending a lot on a team, it doesn't always correlate with success. Teams can struggle with chemistry issues, like, for example, one player may see another player who may be less valuable to the team but still make more money and feel inclined not to contribute as much. And that therefore creates a tension in the team and leads to a lack of winning. Another reason could be poor financial flexibility, like the 2024-25 Phoenix Suns. They had the highest payroll in the league, but due to their roster being so top-heavy and expensive with their stars such as Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, making upwards of $50 million apiece, they were unable to fill out the rest of their roster with impactful players, which led to them missing the playoffs entirely, marking a huge disappointment for them and their franchise, with them later trading away their players in order to go into full-scale rebuild. Player salaries are extremely important to the team in winning, but these are funded mostly by media revenue deals. According to an article from visualcapitalist.com titled Visualize How U.S. Sports Leagues Make Their Money by Nicole Conti on July 23, 2024, professional sports leagues make most of their money off of media deals, with the NFL making 66% of their revenue off of media deals, NBA making 41%, and MLB making around 30%. Media outlets are willing to pay millions of dollars to be able to exclusively broadcast their games. According to an article from Investopedia.com, visualcapitalist.com titled Visualize How U.S. Sports Leagues Make Their Money by Nicole Conti on July 23, 2024, outlets such as Amazon Prime and Netflix are willing to spend lots of money in order to broadcast games. For example, in Christmas of 2024, Netflix paid $150 million just to broadcast 2 NFL games. And Amazon Prime paid over $1 billion in order to have exclusive rights to broadcast Thursday Night Football. This is not just exclusive to football, however, as ESPN and NBC recently signed a deal worth over $76 billion to broadcast NBA games over the next 11 years. This money gets distributed over the teams and their respective leagues. MLB teams differ slightly, however, as due to the large amount of games they play, they cannot be all nationally broadcasted. MLB teams often side with regional distributors such as Bally Sports, or in some cases even have their own network. These are often region locked, only being able to be viewed in their only being able to be viewed on local television stations. Along with media revenue, ticket sales have made a significant impact on teams and how they function. According to an article from visualcapitalist.com titled Visualize How U.S. Sports Leagues Make Their Money by Nicole Conti on July 23, 2024, the NFL made around 17% of the revenue off ticket sales, and the NBA making about 26%, and the MLB making the most with 30%. The difference in income can be attributed to many factors, such as the amount of games. For example, MLB teams have more games than NBA and NFL teams and therefore make more money off tickets. Stadium quality, for example, a higher quality stadium would lead to a lot more fans coming rather than a lower quality one. And team performance. Fans often want to see a winning, better team than a losing team. Teams also make money at the games themselves with things such as concessions and parking. According to an article from visualcapitalist.com titled Visualize How U.S. Sports Leagues Make Their Money by Nicola Conti on July 23, 2024, NFL teams make about 10% of their revenue from concessions and parking, NBA making about 8%, and MLB making the same as the NFL with 10%. This revenue goes directly back to their respective teams along with their merchandise sales. Merchandise, like hats, jerseys, etc., are important to teams in their roster construction. According to an article from sportsbusinessjournal.com titled The Sale of Licensed Sports Merch in 2021 was 9% higher than in 2019. On August 2nd, 2022, the sale of sports merchandise and memorabilia was estimated to be around $40 billion in 2021. The profits from this merchandise help teams operate, like paying employees, paying for stadium renovations, and even going back into some player payroll. Along with the merchandise itself, sponsors will pay to be advertised on things such as jerseys and helmets and baseball bats. According to an article from visualcapitalist.com titled Visualize How U.S. Sports Leagues Make Their Money by Nicola Conti on July 23, 2024, NFL, NBA, and MLB teams make 10%, 12%, and 11% of their income from sponsors respectively. This can vary from patches on jerseys to logos on helmets. These are all factors in making teams money, but some teams aren't as profitable as others due to their smaller markets and size, and therefore must approach team construction way differently than the more expensive teams. This type of team construction for teams who are in smaller markets and have less financial flexibility make teams think more analytically and force them to adapt to their surroundings. This approach is most common in MLB because, as I previously stated, they don't have a salary cap or floor, which allows teams to spend as much or as little as they would like. This affects larger market teams in a positive light, like the previously mentioned LA Dodgers, who are free to spend as much as they like in order to put a winning product out on the baseball field. For example, these past 2 years, in 2024 and 2025, they have won the World Series. However, smaller market teams like the Oakland A's and Tampa Bay Rays must rely on analytics to counteract the lack of financial backing. According to an article from the Pennsylvania State University titled Optimizing Roster Construction in Major League Baseball by Kyle Krobuk in 2022. In 2002, the Oakland A's, with the 28th ranked payroll in the league, won a league-leading 103 games. Their strategy, dubbed Moneyball, was built on finding cheap, undervalued players, which proved successful, with it even having a book and movie being made about it. These advanced analytics, otherwise known as sabermetrics, proved successful for the A's, along with the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays used sabermetrics to formulate cheap and productive rosters, which led to a World Series berth in 2022. According to an article from 538.com titled The 2020 Rays Are Doing More with Less, even more than usual, the Tampa Bay Rays won the most games in the American League in 2022, even with the second lowest payroll. Like the Rays, like the A's, used cheap, undervalued players to formulate a winning roster, which led to them going through the American League and all the way to the World Series. Although they didn't win, losing to the previously mentioned Dodgers, they still serve as a pillar that smaller market teams can do more with less and compete with the bigger ones, even though they don't have as much financial backing or as many resources as the bigger markets have. In conclusion, today I've discussed many aspects of professional sports and their economics. I've discussed things such as player salaries, media deals, ticket revenue, merchandise, and economic strategies that help teams stay competitive in their goal to win a championship. Remember when I told you about the Dodgers payroll? Well, salaries are only going to rise over the coming years, making each team more and more expensive. Thank you.